After almost 20 years of real estate here in Columbia, South Carolina, there are some common problems that keep popping up during my home showings and on my clients' inspection reports. I'm cutting out the guesswork and uncertainty for you, so keep listening to learn about the real problems that I find with homes here in my market in Columbia, South Carolina. In South Carolina, it is not a question of if you'll ever get termites, it's a matter of when. Active termite infestation and damage caused by a previous infestation are common issues that come up on inspection reports here, and they vary from being minor to, one intact termite tube or some previous termite damage that does not need repair, all the way to a home that is just eat up with termites and probably the poster child for having and maintaining a termite bond. Although not required by most lenders and loan types, a thorough termite inspection is a must when you're buying a home here. When you're making an offer on a home, you want to pay close attention to the property disclosure and to the section on termites. This is where a seller will disclose if the home has a bond in place and if there's been any treatment to the property during their ownership, and if they are aware of any active infestation or any damage caused by termites. It's not required for a seller to have or offer a bond to a buyer, but if the seller does have one, I encourage you to contact the bond company during your due diligence period and get the details of that bond in writing. If the home is not covered by a bond, I would also encourage you after closing to contact a local termite company and have your home placed under a bond to protect your home and your investment from future infestation and damage. Many resale homes here in Columbia do not have gutters, which is shocking to me because of how important it is for us in such a termite-prone area to keep moisture out of crawl spaces and away from our homes. But such is life, folks, and this drives so many of our clients crazy who are moving here from out of state. Years ago, a home inspector told me it's because we would rather be hunting, fishing, and watching football than cleaning out our gutters in the fall. While logically that tracks, it makes sense, I have absolutely no real explanation for why this is the case. But the good news is gutters are an affordable and very easy addition to your home after closing, and one that I would strongly recommend that you put on your honey-do list. This really gets people moving here from outside of South Carolina. We do not have many basement homes. Our water table is relatively shallow, making basement homes a no-go for most lots in our area. You'll sometimes see homes that have an unfinished basement, and most of the time that basement area is really just a really high crawl space, and it's best used for storage. It's important to know that a lot of homes that have these kind of basement crawl space areas that are below grade, they do have a tendency to see some moisture challenges. It could be as minor as just needing a very basic dehumidifier, or it could need something more involved like a sump pump as well. Most people that store items in this area of their home, they put things up on pallets just as a precaution so they don't get wet. You may occasionally see a nice daylight or walkout basement on some homes because of the slope from the front to the back of the lot. Most lots that are ideal for walkout basements are on Lake Murray. But every once in a while, you'll find an off-water lot that's ideal for one too, but be prepared, that's very rare. Since walkout basements are above grade, you won't have the same challenges with moisture as a home that has a basement crawl space area below grade. Given that our water table is relatively shallow, given the fact that many older resale homes do not have gutters, and considering that Columbia is very humid in the summertime, excessive crawl space moisture is another common issue that we see pop up on inspections. This moisture can lead to growth of mold and mildew. It can compromise the structural elements of your home, like your floor joists and your beams, and that damp environment can attract termites. To prevent this, it's really important to talk to your inspector about the best way to address address and mitigate that excessive moisture through things like proper ventilation, drainage systems if they're necessary, and sometimes even something as simple as gutters or a vapor barrier. Even though Columbia can be hilly, we do have some low-lying areas and a lot of rivers and streams and creeks that run through the area. And that brings with it areas that are in flood zones and may require flood insurance. Now, after selling homes here in Columbia for almost 20 years, I pretty much know where most of the flood zone areas are located. So I promise you're not going to get caught off guard with a home that requires flood insurance. You may have also heard that in October of 2015, Columbia experienced a historic flooding event. It was a once-in-a-lifetime 1,000-year flood that was brought on by excessive amounts of rain from a stationary front and the remnants of Hurricane Joaquin at the same time. It brought over 20 inches of rainfall to the Columbia area in a very short time span. And that caused multiple man-made dams in our area to fail and then subsequently flood certain areas, primarily areas located in the east and southeast Columbia area. Because of this event, several areas were rezoned as being in a floodplain and would require flood insurance moving forward. Now, it's really important to understand that first and foremost, this was a historic 1,000-year weather event that is statistically not likely to happen again in our lifetime. While this was a devastating event for many people, the negative effects really were limited to a few areas of town, so it was not a widespread issue through like the entire city. Sellers are required to disclose if their home was flooded, even if they fully remediated the issue, and the new floodplain lines were redrawn several years ago, so it's not hard to find out if a home is in a new flood zone. Even if your home is not in a flood zone, you still have the right to purchase flood insurance in addition to your regular homeowner's insurance if you personally feel a need to protect yourself. Federal Pacific Electric panel boxes have raised a lot of concerns among homeowners and electricians because of safety issues, and they're still very common in homes in the Columbia area that were built between the 50s and 80s. Now, many of these panels were found to have serious defects, and they posed a significant fire hazard because of those defects. The reliability issues with those panel boxes led to safety recalls, a class action lawsuit, and just the general consensus that these panels don't provide adequate protection for homes. Many experts recommend replacing these panels with more modern and reliable alternatives just to ensure the safety of the electrical system in your home. Now, from a real estate perspective, while the panel box in the home you're buying might be perfectly safe, one day you may need to sell your home, and whoever decides to buy it may not feel so confident in the old panel's reliability. So I always tell clients, if you're not able to negotiate for a seller to replace that panel box, you need to be prepared to take on the financial cost of that one day in the future when you go to sell for the next owner of the home. Polybutylene has long been a concern in the plumbing industry due to its susceptibility to deterioration and a very high risk of leaks. Polybutylene was used from the 70s to the mid-90s, and over time it became obvious that these pipes would degrade like very early, and that deterioration is going to lead, to small fractures that cause leaks and subsequently water damage to your home. Now, insurance companies often view polybutylene plumbing negatively, and many homeowners opt to replace it with more reliable materials like PEX. And it's a very similar situation to Federal Pacific panel boxes. You might see a home that has polybutylene. It has not had any issues or leaking. It may never leak. But when you go to sell your home one day, the next buyer might not be so confident in the reliability of that product. And if you're not able to negotiate for the seller to replace that, you might be on the hook as the new homeowner to replace it for your next buyer. Masonite siding While it was initially very popular for being affordable, it gained a reputation really quickly for being higher maintenance compared to other materials. Now, one of the primary concerns is its susceptibility to moisture damage. Masonite is an engineered wood product. It's made of wood fibers and wax and resin, and it's vulnerable to swelling and warping and delamination when it's exposed to water. And if it's not properly sealed and painted and maintained, the moisture is going to penetrate that siding and cause a lot of decay. Now, the need for constant maintenance and possible repairs and caulking and repainting, that makes Masonite a more demanding product in terms of time and cost compared to other siding materials that are going to be more durable and resistant to the outdoor elements. You definitely want to make sure that you do a thorough inspection by your home inspector and a licensed contractor if you happen to be looking at a home that has Masonite. And just know going into it that it's going to be a higher maintenance product for you as the new homeowner. After almost 20 years of selling real estate, I've seen almost everything. And I connect my clients with the best inspectors and contractors to protect the financial and the time investment that they're making in their new home. I'm Bethany with the Geary Group at Keller Williams, and if you're looking to make a move to Columbia, South Carolina, my team and I are here to help, and we would love to hear from you. Our contact information is in the description. Until then, you can learn more about the different areas of Columbia by clicking the video on your screen now.